Hello, everyone. I'm Sharif Hussain Khan Shabur from Bangladesh. Am I audible to you guys? Alain, could you please confirm that am I audible or not? Okay. So thank you very much for joining in and welcome. I'm Sharif Hussain Khan Shabur from Bangladesh, and I'm looking forward to exploring the topic of design thinking and how we can use it to accelerate innovation and growth in our organizations and maybe even in our lives. Let me tell you a little bit about myself as I get started. I've been studying the way of designers think and its relevance to the organizations for over 6 years now. In this webinar, we will explore a variety of human tendencies that get the way of innovation and describe how designer and design thinking tools help us break free of them. Let's start it. So I'm going to share the presentation with you now. So the topic of our today's webinar is solving problems with design thinking. And we will be discussing the very basic of design thinking and a little bit about its application. So what experts says about design thinking? So according to Andrea Martin, Global Leadership Development Director of Mars Incorporated, design thinking gives you curiosity, the ability to look out into the world and find new solutions to traditional problems. And then Mr. Jeremy Alexis, professor of design, Illinois Institute of Technology, said, too often in the corporate world, we can use statistically significant surveys to generate ideas from them. In many cases, that does work for incremental improvements. But if you want something more disrupted, you really must go into the field and find something proprietary. So that's what scouts do, right? So this is what design thinking is. So this is the very beginning and the principle of design thinking. So first part of the design thinking is empathize. Design thinking place people and their needs at the center. What does the end user want? What is the job to be done? The step requires observation, engagement, and conversation. Most market research studies fail just at the first step. It shouldn't come as a surprise that most products and services fail. So what is the second? Second is define. So figuring out the problems. Once we identify the real job to be done from the perspective of end user, we need to define the problem or challenge in a meaningful way. So defining the problem right is half of the solution actually. Then the third step is idea. Use your creative mind to generate as many solutions as possible. Never mind whether the solution makes sense or not. Don't try to figure out the right answer. Just allow your mind to come up with solutions that do not exist at present. So brainstorming is one of the way, not brainstorming actually. It is a silent method of group ideation. So there is no predicting of ideas in which participants actually contribute their ideas through short notes in a structured graphic, right? And then you can use another tool, mind mapping, a diagram used to visually organize information. And then the most famous one, doodling. What we actually love to do are some of the useful tools of this stage of ideate. And then one of the most important steps is prototyping. What is prototyping? Design thinking is all about learning by doing. That's what we Scout do. Convert as many solutions as you can into working prototypes. The essence of this step is speed. Don't aim to perfect solution. Look for tangible solution that the end user is likely to be pleased with. Remember, it is better to fail actively at this stage than to fail spectacularly later. And then the fifth stage, that is testing. Okay, so what is testing? So Go into the real world, test your solutions or ideas. Do not expect the smell of sweet success at this stage. Expect that end user to trash your solution. Yes, trash your solution and learn from their feedback. Iteration is the heart of the design thinking. Don't ever think that the first solution is indeed the best solution ever. Often, your first solution is likely to be your worst from the end user perspective because they are the target audience, right? So design thinking is a process we actually use for innovation, right? So how we use it, what is the process of using design thinking in the innovation process? So all successful innovation begins with accurate assessment of what is going on today. Indeed, right? So indeed, starting by developing a better understanding of current reality is characteristics of design thinking. So attending to the present pays dividends in two critical ways. First, it helps broaden, perhaps even change completely our definition of the problem or opportunity we want to tackle. We can unwittingly throw away all kinds of opportunity for innovations before we even get started if we adopt too many narrow, too conventional definition of our problems. Then the second, that this attention to present helps uncover unarticulated needs. It is a key of producing the kind of innovation designs, criteria of generating differentiated solution. So questioning the first one, what is, right? So what is saves us from having to rely entirely on our own imagination as we move into idea development, and it gives us solid and ideally deep insight into what required to be solved as a problem. This reduces the risk of failure with a new idea. And after analyzing that data we have gathered, we have identified patterns from those data and insights, and we have translated those into specific design criteria as a part of what is space. Now we are going to use those criteria to ask what if, keeping in mind that we want to stir this part of the process by focusing on possibilities. So what if anything were possible? That is the main question in this part actually. So often we get trapped into starting with constraints rather than possibilities, and then the future ends up looking like the present. That's not our target, right? So this phase is where brainstorming occurs. Rather than relying entirely on our imagination and idea generation, we are going back to our users, use the insights and the criteria we generated during the data gathering, and pose a series of trigger questions. Those questions will help us to think outside of our own boxes and generate multiple creative ideas. And then in concept development, we are going to take those individual ideas and combine them, just the way we do with Legos. You know Legos, right? So into all kinds of different co-creations, and we call these creations our business concepts. Okay, so and now we have the whole set of business concepts from those couple of questions: what is and what if. It's time to move to the first stage of testing and asking the third question: what wows? Okay, so in this stage we are going to treat each of our business concept explicitly as a hypothesis and begin to think systematically about evaluating them against our design criteria. Now, if we get the first two questions approximately right, we will find to our simultaneous pleasure and dismay that we have far too many interesting concepts to move forward all at once. And so we must make some hard choices now. The concept that wow, the one that passed the first test, are actually good candidate for turning into experiments to be conducted with actual user. To do this, we need to transform those concepts into something potential customer can interact with, our prototype. So what is prototype? An early sample model of a product or solution that we are thinking about. So finally, what what works? That is the final question. We are ready to learn from the real world by asking our fourth question. What works? And trying to out simple prototype with actual user if they like and give us useful feedback. Then we refine the prototype and test it with yet more users, iterating our way until we feel confident about the whole value of new idea and are ready to scale it for business or for solving the problem. Okay. So as we move through what works, it is important to keep in mind some of this principle behind this learning in action stage. So the next question for us, how design thinking works? So design thinking as a problem-solving approach that asks four questions, and that is actually related. That is actually human-centered, possibility-driven, option-focused, and repetitive in its approach. So let me talk about each of those for a moment in turn. So human-centered, the first one, is where we always start with people. So with real human beings, not demographics or segmentation schemes. Design thinking emphasizes the importance of the deep exploration into the lives and the problems of the people we hope to generate value for before we allow to start generating solutions. Therefore, it is often called user-driven designs. It adopts market research methodologies that are qualitative and empathetic, and it is also enthusiastic about engaging other human beings in co-creation. So design thinking is also possibility-driven, the second part. It uses the information we have learned to ask the question, what if anything were possible, as we bring to create new idea about how to serve them. It is also focuses on generating multiple options and avoid putting our eggs in particular solution baskets, because we are gazing about our stakeholders' need and wants. When we go after unarticulated needs, we expect to be wrong a lot, believe me. So we want to put multiple irons in the fire and let our stakeholders to choose which works for them. Let them choose. And finally, the process is iterative. It's committed to conducting cycles of real-life experiments rather than running analysis using historical data. Believe me, that doesn't work actually always. So it often works, but it's a process of continuous forming and testing, then reforming our ideas about what works. We don't expect to get it right at the first time. We expect to iterate our way to success. So, why design thinking works? Like, we can ask that why. What is the mechanism behind it? Why it works? So it addresses the biases and behaviors that hampers the innovation process. So how it so to answer that, along the way, design thinking process counteract human biases that thwart creativity while addressing the challenges typically faced in reaching superior solutions, lowered costs and risks, and employee buy-in, recognizing our organizations as a collection of human beings, because we are human and we work for organizations who are actually motivated by varying perspectives and emotions. Design thinking emphasizes engagement, dialogue, learning by involving our customers or stakeholders and in the definition of the problem and development of solutions or the product. Okay, so why large companies are using design thinking? What's so special in that? So how is that the large organizations like Apple, Microsoft, Samsung, PepsiCo, Nike, Toyota are on the top of their games, disrupting entire industries they belong? The answer is simple. Design thinking is what has enabled them to outperform other companies. More and more organizations are seeing the value of implementing the iterative method into their production processes and service creation. Why? These companies put their clients and their needs and desires in the center of the creative process. They have realized that traditional method of making business where you design for and not with the customers is actually failing nowadays. Across industries around the globe, attention is shifting to design thinking as an approach for unleashing creativity and innovation in organizations. So nowadays, the future of a company is in the hands of its users. No customer, no business. If the customer's needs are unmet, those organizations are doomed, simply doomed. That is why forward-thinking companies are now minimizing the risk of launching new products that people won't like by rapidly creating prototypes via the design thinking process. Afterwards, they get feedback from their customers to make the products better or the service better before they even enter the market. This saves a lot of effort, time, and money in the long run. And those things actually make the business more profitable or successful. So now the most important part we are actually talking about. So how design thinking, how we can apply design thinking in our daily life. So most of us have faced questions. What do you want to be when you grow up, right? So I believe who are participating in this particular session or webinar, they already have faced this question. What do you want to be when you are grow up? So Bill Burnett, an adjunct professor of Stanford University and leads of the design thinking program, said it differently. Bill Burnett argues that this is a wrong question to ask. Rather, we should ask, what can I do to keep exploring throughout the life? So previously we have talked about the 5 part of the design thinking principles. So use the core principles of design thinking. Find out why is it working, what is not, experiment, dare to challenge the status quo. Applying design thinking to life involves improvisation and wayfinding. So how we can actually relate all these things? So the first part, maintain a good time journal. So how to do that? And so assumption 1, we find something missing in our life. So how do we improve this situation? Starts with a good time journal. Keep a record hour to hour. Remember, of all your daily activities for a week. Check the activities that you find fulfilling when you are completely immersed in what you do, why, which activities make you happy, which one make you unhappy, which activities help you to be calm and poised, and which ones create anxiety, fear, and anger. When do you feel that life is smooth, flow, and when do you feel that life, when do you find it is turbulent? So these are the questions you have to ask to yourself. What are you doing when you are most alive, present, and animated? This is the critical state. The more insights you gather in this state, the better off you will be. Use the design thinking process we talked about, reinforce the activities that make you happy, and do away with activities that are not fulfilling, repeated for the rest of your life. And you will be, believe me, you will be very good and you will feel really better. And after making a good time journal, just track your energy. You track your energy in sense, this is the second point, you will find the journal that some activities energize you and some activities just drain you. Maintain the journal for a few weeks, consecutive few weeks. You will have a clear idea of activities that energize you and the activities that drains you. Then the third step, that is create 3 Odyssey plans. Now, so what are they? So think of the next 5 years, identify 3 paths or scenarios which you can pursue realistically. The first scenario is a continuation of your current status quo. And the second scenario is what you would do if your current situation suddenly changed. What if you are no more a student? What if you are no more doing a business? Or what if you lose your job? Or what if you have a quarrel with your boss or a family member? What if there is a natural disaster in your area, like coronavirus? Then the third step, the third scenario is a hypothetical wish list. So we all of us probably have thought about it, and wish list of all that you might want to do over a lifetime. Like sell off everything and work or bike across the world, become a chef, go sailing, swimming, bungee jumping. Go ahead, create the list you can imagine, or you can dream of the wild wish list. The point of the third scenario is to explore many different paths, most of which you might not have thought of cautiously till now. So remember, it is never too late to learn and to pursue. So 1 hour a day for 3 years can get you to a magical number of 1,095 hours to master anything, right? And now the fourth one, the fourth step is define your problem. So use the first 3 steps to generate a template, like what we have discussed about previously. What makes me happy? How can I do more of it? What makes me unhappy? And how can I do less of it? What do I want to do next? What skills do I need to move in different directions? Honestly, how much room do I have to maneuver, right? Now that I have examined my situation, how can I make it better? That's the question, right? So how do I create the next better version of myself, right? So how do I need to change the most? How do I reinvent myself, right? So please understand those differences between navigating and wayfinding, right? So uh, that is the way. Life does not afford simplicity, actually. We know we want to go somewhere, but we are not sure exactly where. Wayfinder is the answer. So what is wayfinding? This is pretty much a common term in scouting. Wayfinding is a method hunters or scouts use to identify their targets. So look for clues in the life. Come up with alternatives, brainstorm, doodle, draw mental maps. Once you have what you think that makes you happy, start prototyping and testing your ideas. And finally, prototype, test, and repeat. When it comes to life, a prototype is a quick and inexpensive way to determine whether a criteria or idea will make you happy or not. As an example, let us say you want to do a project on SDGs somewhere for 3 years, right? Ask an expert or scout what it takes to accomplish the project, or start implementing your plans slow and steady. Start slow and steady. Increase the intensity of work and keep implementing. Do you feel energized? If yes, please continue. And if not, please continue. And then think about it. Taking to its logical conclusion, one day you might need to accomplish a big community development project on SDGs. Or at some point, you may realize that working continuously itself is more impactful and sustainable than just accomplishing another random project. Make corrections in your plans and iterations again and again for better results in the project. Do you want to learn language? No, many of us want so. So there are many portals that allow you to learn language for free. Try one for a week, feel excited, continue, feel drained, think of another language, or even music or game. Keep experimenting with life. And another thing is we are working on global goals, 17 global goals. So use design thinking for thinking globally and acting locally. That will make a huge impact, right? And you may look around for examples. Go to the scout.org, like what scouts are accomplishing as projects and what they are doing for creating a better world. Talk to them, discuss with them about their projects and their problems and the reality. And you will get to know so many things that will be helpful for your life and projects. Don't be confused. Don't be shy. Please just go and ask, and they will help for sure because they are scouts, right? And finally, we are actually very end of the conversation. So if you have any question, the floor is open, so we can discuss about the design thinking, and you can find the Challenge Valley activity code, AMI capital RCN, that will be very much helpful to redeem your digital badges in future. So keep that code. This is a secret code. Don't share it with anyone. So don't be afraid of failing. Failures are the pillar of success. What are you waiting for? Use design thinking to create a better world and a new you. So the floor is open for questions. Okay. So I guess we have few questions, right? Okay, okay. So all of you got the code, right? So is there any questions about the design thinking? We are almost very close to the end of the session. 4 minutes to go. Lucas, can you help me to find questions about the session?
Yes, Sheriff. Please take a look at the chat of the hosts and panelists. I have put all the questions in there.
Okay, so the first question I got it from Amir Chima. So how does design thinking fit in with the agile process? So agile process is like actually repeating the agile process is actually like identifying the problems and actually come up with some very quick solutions. And when we are actually practicing design thinking process and repeating the whole thing again and again, the whole process is agile. So we are getting the feedback from the customer, and we are actually modifying our solution, and we are actually implementing it on our prototypes, and we are coming up with our new solution. So that's how the agile fit in the design thinking process. Okay. Any more question?
We have 2 more questions that were sent before in the session. Sonny Kim wants to know, what are the most idealistic personalities for becoming a successful design thinker?
Well, it is actually like observation. From my perspective, this is the most important thing to be a better design thinker is observation. Because when you are observing the problem and when you are actually coming up with solutions and when you are testing or prototyping it, so observation is very much important to me. Because we are observing problems, we are coming up with solutions, we are actually selecting or ideating solutions, and then we are actually uh, uh, turning those ideas into reality, and then we are testing, and when it's not working, we're going back to design table and observing what's going wrong, and we are taking feedback or observing the customer's journey, and we are coming back to the prototype again, and we are changing it. So to me, observation is very much important, and keeping patience is another thing. So keeping patience is another thing, because sometimes we are human being and we lost ourselves, and we get biased in some situation. So keeping patience in those steps are very much important to become a good design thinker. And it's not a destination, it's a journey. So this is the very beginning, who are very new to the idea or concept of design thinking. This is very basic. Just keep exploring and just keep practicing with your daily life, with your office project, with your college project. And yes, someday you might be a better design thinker, or who knows, you will come up with some different process that is the new design thinking, and that will shape our future. Thank you, Sonny Kim. That's a good question. Thanks for it.
I think that we don't have time for more questions, but I see people are very interested in that discussion and sending more questions on the chat. So thank you everyone for that.
Thank you very much for joining in. And remember, use design thinking to create a better world and a new you. Thank you very much. See you.